It's that time again. If you're a real estate agent and you're looking to finally build a business that creates consistent cash flow, but you're concerned about all the market disruptions, relax. You found your safe haven to learn the secret to success. List you last. Welcome to this week's podcast. Hey, welcome fellow listing agents. Bob Mangold, the listing coach here with episode 31 of the If You List You Last podcast. Now, as always, thanks for listening, sharing, and downloading. And just a reminder, make sure that you join our Real Estate Asset Advisor Facebook group so you can join in on the conversation, share your thoughts, comments, or questions on any of the topics I discuss right here on the podcast. Also, from time to time, I will do Facebook Lives, take live questions and answers, so make sure you check that Facebook group out. Now, today, I'm going to talk about the language of listings and how the words you use make a massive difference in your results. So when I speak live, one of the sayings I have is, your income is directly proportional to the words that you use. The more effective your words are, the more money you'll make. And so today I'm going to talk about that as it relates to listings. So let's get started and jump into this week's mortgage market update, because I do have quite a bit to share with you from last week's numbers and how that's going to impact interest rates. So last week, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that there were 272,000 jobs created in May, which was way stronger than the estimates of $185,000. So one of the things that the Fed uses as a guide to what they're going to do with 10-year interest rates or the Fed fund rate, is employment. And so if the employment numbers look good, it really increases the odds or decreases the odds that the Fed's going to do anything to raise or lower the rates. So the stronger jobs are, the less likely they're going to do anything to lower rates. Question that I always have is, why is the government so set on not lowering rates? And I don't have the answer for you. I guess we'll figure that out in November. But here's the thing to understand. Numbers can be made to look however they want them to look, right? So I don't really have any faith, if you've listened before, in numbers that come from the government. But here's why I can say that. Almost all the jobs that came, that we added last time, was from what's called the birth-death rate model. Now, that is not people. That's businesses. And it is a completely arbitrary, made-up model that they try and determine based on the number of businesses that went out of business, the death, or the number of businesses that start, how many jobs they'll add. So it's a complete swag. If you don't know what swag is, scientific wild-ass guess. 100%. So remember, we added 272,000 jobs, but 231,000 of those jobs came from the birth-death model that nobody can explain, and it is a completely arbitrary number. Without it, we would have only seen 41,000 jobs added. And again, this is how the BLS tries to figure out how many businesses came online versus offline and how many jobs that accounted for. Folks, that could take 5 years to play out. But what's really important, it's getting small business data, which, let's just look at a comparison. ADP, who processes 25 million people's paychecks, right? So they work with literally millions of businesses. Last month, they showed that there were 10,000 jobs lost in small businesses. The birth-death model says, no, we added 231,000. In the real world, ADP, who processes payroll for people, said we lost 10,000. Which is it? Right? Now, in those reports, it said leisure and hospitality, right? Hotel, food, things like that nature, added $42,000 or 42,000 jobs. But 89,000 of them came from the birth-death model. Without it, we would have lost 47,000 jobs in the sector. And if you think about it, last week, a company called Rubio's, I don't know if it's Rubio's Mexican Grill or whatever, announced they were closing 80-some stores or whatever it was, a large number in California, because, listen, the minimum wage of what they've done to restaurants in California simply can't make any money. How can we say that we're closing these businesses and yet, the business model or the jobs model in the leisure and hospitality is strong. It's not. And when ADP shows only 12,000 job gains, then you just got to go, which is correct? And then the JOLTS survey, and that's the job opening survey, showed 109,000 less job openings in April. The job numbers are not what we make them out to be. Unfortunately, we have the headline number. That's the one that comes out this month. But then they revise it each month, and guess what? Last month, they revised it down again. So unfortunately, what happens is we only pay attention to the number that gets announced each month. Then the average hourly earnings, which measures wage-pressured inflation, rose 0.4, which, was above the estimates, but the year-over-year average hourly earnings rose from 5% to 4.1%. So in theory, hey, we're making more money per hour. The average hours worked remained at 34.3. What that means, folks, is if you look at that with the year-over-year figure decreasing from 3.9 to 3.8, all that's happening is they're making more money per hour, but we're reducing the hours that they work. With inflation, food inflation going up, how does the average person get by? And those are all things that are important to us in the real estate industry, right? Now, remember, both of these are surveys within the job reports, the business survey and the household survey. The business creation number comes from the household survey, which is where we're actually calling millions of people. The household survey has its own job creation component, and it showed we lost 408,000 jobs, which is huge from what the Labor Department reports. How can we actually legitimately have those disparities, right? So if the BLS says we increased jobs by 250, it was 272, but just play the math, but we actually lost $408,000, that's a $650,000 or 650,000 difference from the BLS numbers. Who do we trust more? Private companies that are making millions and millions of phone calls doing the household survey, or government entities that have their own agenda? So I'm going to let you decide who you want to trust more, government bureaucrats that are under political pressure, or a private company that's calling millions of people. But it's important for you to understand, because at the end of the day, this is going to affect interest rates, not mortgage rates, but interest rates on things like cars and credit cards, all eating into people's cash flow. Now, because there were more job losses than those that left the labor force, the unemployment rate rose from 3.9 to 4%. If people wouldn't have left the labor force, the unemployment rate would have moved to 4.1. There are over 5 million workers that are not employed but not counted because of how the BLS calculates the data. Again, they'll skew the data. If you look at the U6 technical stuff, which is a broader measure of unemployment that does not remove the people, the unemployment rate remained at 7.4, the highest U6 reading since November 2021. So looking deeper at the 400,000 job losses in the household survey, there were 626,000 full-time job losses with 286,000 part-time gains. That's not a good sign, folks. Additionally, multiple job holders rose by 16,000 people. What that means is we're losing full-time jobs. People are going out and getting part-time jobs to make up for the money and the hours that they're getting cut. This all works to strain our economy and really punish the American people. When we talk about higher interest rates on mortgage, that's certainly a component of it, but it's also cash flow. When it costs people more money to live, that's an issue. Now, this week, the CPI comes out. One of my favorite things that they do is they strip out food and fuel from the inflation numbers. The two most important things in that component that people absolutely must have is food. Yet we take it out so the number looks better. If you added it back in, folks, we'd have inflation in the 7.5% range. But again, who gets to decide who puts that in and takes that out? And the answer is the government does. So nothing great going to happen on interest rates over the next few months. But again, it reminds me that we continue to have to talk to people about cash flow. Okay? So at the end of the day, we've got to take and be aware of what's going on in our market to be able to take and help give advice to people. Okay? So let's get to the language that we use and how important is that? So one of the things that made me bring this up is I just seen another interview that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger did, however many years ago it was, 6, 8, 10, doesn't matter. And they said, you guys don't need to work, but yet you do work pretty hard. What do you do all day? What is somebody who's one of the richest people in the world? What do you guys do all day? And the answer was, we spend about 80% of our time thinking and reading. Thinking. Why is that relevant to you and your real estate business, right? Other than Warren Buffett owns Berkshire Hathaway, it doesn't really impact the real estate business. But what he does know is how to run a business. And folks, whether you agree with it or not, a real estate career, real estate job, a real estate agent is the CEO of their own business. And listing and selling homes is your business. So what can we learn from him as an agent? How about if you start thinking about the things that you do all day and what you're going to say? Because the most critical task you have to perform every day is to spend time thinking about what you say, how you say it, and when is the right time to say it to people. If you can change the words you use, you'll change your business forever. Again, assuming that you're using the right words. So today we're going to talk about the words you should use and how you should use them with potential clients in the processes that need to back up your listing promises, right? So if you make promises to people that this is what you can do, you have to back that up with proof. Because words without proof is sales, and nobody likes to be sold. But I would argue that the real question that you have to ask, if you go, oh, that's just crap, I don't need to do that, is how much money will you lose over your lifetime because you don't spend time thinking about the words that you use? Now, let me give you an example, right? So this is a scenario that I'd like to propose to you. I put you in a room of 1,000 potential sellers, buyers, and investors. 75% of them are going to do a transaction in the next 90 days, and I'm going to put them in a room with you. But I'm only going to give you 15 seconds to speak so you can tell them why they should work with you, and only you could literally make millions of dollars in commissions from those 15 seconds. What would you say? Based on that premise, how much time would you spend thinking about what you would say? Let's say I gave you 30 days notice. Hey, we're going to do this. And I gave you 30 days notice. How much time in those 30 days would you focus on what you would say? Only you can determine that. There's millions of dollars at stake. I would suggest you might want to spend some time on it. Now, I get that it's a really ridiculous concept, right? Bob, that'll never happen. You're never going to do that. It's stupid to even think that way. Maybe, but it's not. On April 2023, one of our agents had 1,224 buying units attend their open house, and less than 25% of them already had an agent. So let me tell you what a buying unit is. A buying unit is one person that wants to buy. So if a mom and dad and 2 kids come in, we don't count them as 4, we count them as 1. So our agent was literally in front of 1,224 people in a 2-day period, locked in a room, or in a house, if you will, and a quarter of them, so call it about 300, had an agent. That would be 924 buying units in one weekend that they were in front of that didn't have a real estate agent. And you go, that was lucky. On Mother's Day weekend this year, one of my agents, Ryan, in Northwest Chicago, had 582 buying units at his open house. Only 38 of them had an agent. And then 1 week later, Brian, one of our agents in northern Boston suburbs, had 377 buying units at his open house. If they were doing 3 or 4 open houses a month, folks, right? If Ryan was doing, let's just do 4 open houses a month, he's got more than 2,000 people that he's in front of. If Brian did that and averaged 375 4 times, there's what, 1,500 people roughly? So the concept of putting you in a room with 1,000 people is not very far-fetched, is it? Now, if these agents hadn't spent time thinking about how to convert that traffic, how much commission would they be losing? 75, 100, 150, or more? If you got 1,000 people in there and you could convert 30 or 40% of those people, let's even say 20% of them, that's 200 transactions in their market average price, 24, call it $20,000 commission. That's $4 million. Imagine losing that much money from every one of your listings that you do from now until you stop working. How much time would you spend now to think about your answer? Now, in our listing and open house process, we have what we call a 1 into 5. It's how do we take one listing and turn it into 5 additional transactions from every listing? The answer is what we say has to be effective to convert those people to work with us, and we have to do it very quickly. When you have 1,224 people at an open house, you don't have long to talk to them. And if you've seen the video that we have of it, and you watch our agents that are there, you can see they don't have very much time, 15 to 30 seconds. Now, is 5 transactions from every listing, is that aggressive? Yes. But if we set a goal of, hey, I want to get 2 more transactions, somebody gets 2 and they're happy, why not set 5? Why not 10? Out of 1,224 people, is getting 5 additional transactions from that good? No, that's a horrible conversion rate. Now, from that, they got over, I think it was 24 additional transactions, which is a fairly low number for us, right? But at the end of the day, it totally took us by surprise, folks. You got to admit, 1,224 people over a 2-day open house is not normal, and it took us by surprise. And so while they thought they had enough agents there to work with the clients, they didn't. But they still got 24 at, let's call it, $20,000 average commission. How important is what they said at that open house to those people? So the point I want to get across to you is that you need to spend time about what you say. I attended a forum yesterday. Very high producing agents. And their answer was, hey, what we do is we have our teams get on the phone. We have them start making calls. My question is, what are they saying, and what are we spending our time teaching them to say, and what are we doing to help improve them? Now, listen, for me, I've spent literally decades thinking about this, improving my answer. The good news is, fortunately, all 3 of those agents know what to say, have the proper materials ready for them, because I've trained them, and they use our language and processing. So I've spent decades. We know that it works. And I'm going to share that with you, so you might want to write this down. Now, remember, I have 15 seconds to do this. Good afternoon, folks. Using your primary residence, my goal is to turn everyone I work with into a cash millionaire. I help people build their personal net worth 67 times faster than any other real estate agent on the planet. If you want to know how, scan the QR code on the screen and schedule a call with me. Did that get your attention, folks? Is that different than what the average real estate agent would say? And the goal of whatever you say, folks, the goal of that should be to get the response, wow, how do you do that? Then I get to answer, let me show you how. And do you see how we're playing chess with our words? Yes, I want to get their attention, but I also want to elicit the response from them that takes me to the next step. Even if they go, because we hear this, oh, that sounds like BS. Sounds too good to be true. And I go, awesome, you know what, I hear that all the time, but the good news is it's just math. Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm so confident I can show you how to do it. If I can't, I'll write you a check for $1,000. So is that $1,000 of my money worth 15 to 20 minutes of your time? Shuts them up every time. Now, you got to have the process to be able to do that. but I wanted to illustrate how important the words are, because the words you use matter. Now, I have a separate one for sellers, and I have a separate one for buyers. But if you were to put me in a room of people, the example I just gave you, that's what I would say. Because I train agents on how to focus 100% of their efforts on listings, I'll share that one with you in a minute or two, okay? Now, what I teach agents is not sexy or flashy, but the results for those that will implement are nothing short of incredible. And it's two simple concepts, so you might want to write these down. First, focus on listings only. That's where the money's at. And second, build your listing process to easily explain what you do, why you do it, how it benefits them, and most importantly, you're going to have to be able to provide proof that it works. Proof over promise. Promise is critical. Everybody sells. They go, oh yeah, I've heard that before. No, prove that it works. See, if you're serious about being successful, you have to spend time thinking about and perfecting all of your skills and processes around taking and selling listings. Robert Kiyosaki has a saying, you're one skill away from being wealthy. I would suggest that thinking about and changing the words you use could be that one skill. Now, the other thing that's extremely important to understand, taking listings is not a team game. I was talking to an agent yesterday who needed some help, and I said, well, if you go to agents in your existing office and you say, hey, you're a really good listing agent, can you help me out? Show me what you do, what you say, and all that. Are they going to help you? The answer is hell no, they're not. You're their competition. Going to help you. They're not sharing their listing presentation. You are the competition. It's not that they're bad people. You're the competition. And in today's market where listings come at a premium, do you think they're going to help you? And the training in the industry around listings is laughable. It's embarrassing. So I want you to understand it's you against every other agent, the mega teams, the neighborhood specialists, the big producers, the cash offer hedge fund. It's about you and your sales process against all of theirs. You're on your own, possibly, right? I have solutions for that. If you're open to talk about it, we could do that. See, your goal should be to have the top listing agents in your market going, how the hell do I compete with them? See, if you do it properly, you'll have zero commission. Now, we always go, why listings? We obviously know that's the fastest way to get paid, don't we? And it also gives you geographic freedom, cash flow freedom, things of that nature. And so that just becomes the question. Changing your words, right? Especially when we hate change. First, guys, if you consider this, if you keep saying what the average agent is saying, which is what everybody teaches you to say, you're going to get the same average results. I'll give you an example of what we say in a minute. In 2023, according to NAR, the average agent earned $46,013. Did you really get into real estate to earn 46 grand? Really? So how will changing your words and processes help you take more listings? By doing what I'm going to share, you can easily add a minimum of 2 listings a month. What would 2 listings a month add to your bank account every year? 24 deals, average price in America, $400,000. We get paid 3%, $12,000. It's $288,000 in additional cash flow. It's a little less than 7 times the average agent. What does the typical agent say when calling a private seller? You call them FSBOs, I call them private sellers. Why? Because they're private sellers. They go, hi, this is Bob with eXp Realty, and hey, I was just checking, is your home still available? Every private seller on the planet knows you're a real estate agent, and they know what's coming next. Hey, I may have a buyer from your home. When can I come and see it? That's what everybody says, folks. And you don't have a buyer for their home in 90% of the cases, so you start out by lying. How terrible is that? And then the important question is, when you get into the house, how do you pivot to talk to them about listing it? And I see all these people out there, give them like a disclosure and all this stuff for free and show your value and maybe in 30 days when it's like, ugh, it's a horrible process. So what if you said this first? And by the way, we actually don't call people. We text them. Why? because people just don't answer their phone anymore. So I go, hey, good morning. My name is Bob. I'm a local agent. I had some questions on your home, but it looks like it's sold already. That's text number 1. Why in God's green earth would I say that? Because understand, folks, people are psychologically geared to say no. If you're a man listening to this, tell me if this isn't true. You go into a clothing store, you are looking for something specific, and the salesperson walks up to you and go, hey, how you doing? Do you need any help? We instinctively say no. And then you walk away going, why the hell did I say no? I actually need help. Oh, I'll go look for that, and then I'll come back and get them. So why don't we help them say no right up front? We already know that, unless we missed it, that they don't have it under contract. And they go, no, it's available. Guess what? I got the word no out of the way. The next test, oh, I'm sorry, are you currently negotiating with any potential buyers then? I'm asking that question for down the road when they go, oh, I do have a couple buyers that are interested. I just got you to say no again. Text number 3. In all honesty, I probably don't have a buyer today, but I do have a process where I'm able to get 4, 5, 6, maybe even 10 buyers competing to make you offers in the next 14 days. And then I give them a process to outpay and outbid each other, guaranteeing that you get the highest market value for your home. If you could do that, are you open to offering the standard % finder's fee to an agent? Boy, unpack that one for a minute. I told him, hey, I probably don't have a buyer for you, because I don't. But I do have a process, and that part's all true. But notice the words that I use in saying the standard 3% finder's fee, right? Private sellers don't want to pay a commission, so let's not call it a commission. It's a finder's fee. Hey, listen, in 14 days, I can find you 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 buyers to possibly bid with you. It doesn't matter what they say on the commissions. Just get the appointment. Hey, fantastic. When can we set up a quick call? Zoom is best, so I can talk with you about the process. Now, the reason that I say it that way is I want to make sure that I have any parties to the ownership, right? Husband and wife, 2 owners, whatever it is, on my listing presentation. But do you see how the words are dramatically different? Here's the best part of all, folks. The people that answer are the ones who are ready to talk to us about it. The question that I asked, if I have that, are you open to it? What private seller would say, no, I was already planning on paying 2 or 3% commission anyway, but if this guy can get me 4, 5, 6, or even 10 buyers in the next couple weeks and let them pay me more money, and I'm only going to pay 3%, why the heck wouldn't I talk to them? And if they don't want to talk to me, cool. I have a word we use. It's called sort. They sorted themselves. I don't necessarily want to work with them. But what happens is now I send that text message out to 10 FSBOs, and I get 5 or 6 to go, oh, I'd be open to talk about it. Now I get to do my listing presentation. I get to walk them through the process that we utilize to get that accomplished. And then when I do it, I have proof that I can provide to them. And so again, I won't do this in a podcast. I try and keep these at about 30 minutes or less. At the end of the day, it becomes about our process. Listen, guys, I've spent decades thinking through all these processes. And how do I do this? How do I provide proof? That doesn't happen, but it's about the language. It all starts with the language first. If you think about your marketing, should you start thinking about the lead generation that you're going to do? And I'm going to run ads on Facebook, and I'm going to do this. And then what do I want the ads to say? That's where everybody usually starts. My answer is that's the wrong process. You need to start with the end in mind. The end is if they call or if they respond, what in the world do I say to turn them into business? And so I highly recommend that you spend some time thinking about that process and what you say to people. So I hope that helps. I hope it gives you some serious soul searching to do. Now, if you want more information on what we actually do at the Real Estate Asset Advisor Network, you can jump on over to www.realestateassetadvisors.org. And while you're there, you can check out the replays from some of our Elevate business briefings and get a little bit more information, because the good news is, folks, I've already created systems and process around all of that. So if you're struggling or you go, wow, this all makes sense, but I don't even know where to begin, then you have the ability to schedule a no-cost or obligation coaching session with me. And if it makes sense for us to explore how we can work together, cool, we will. And if it doesn't, didn't cost you a dime. So make sure you jump over to www.w.org and spend some time watching and listening to what I'm training agents on. All right, that's it for this week's show. We'll talk to you next week. And remember, if you list, you last.